Hey everyone, Sparks back with another Goddess Victory Nikke video, and we just got a new batch of treasure units, and so we're going to talk about what they do and which one is the best. Which one should you choose to upgrade to be your first new treasure? Also, I might do a one multi-pull for Mana here at the end, and I keep mispronouncing her name. But anyway, we'll do that at the end. Maybe I'll do some more pulls for her on stream if I miss her. We'll see how that goes. But let's get into our treasure units. So we got Miranda, Drake, Milk, and Helm. We're going to go through them one by one here, see what their skills actually do, and then talk about which one is the most valuable to actually upgrade, if any. So we got Miranda here first. Now, Miranda is someone that I've always enjoyed using because I'm a big Snow White user, and, you know, she was the best support for Snow White for a long time, but she's kind of fallen off. Let's see if she's worth using now. So, of course, the favorite items always come with the basic skills that come from the collectibles before that, and then they get upgrades to all of their actual skills when you get the treasure item and as you move through the phases on it. By the way, if you guys don't know how any of this works, how do you get the treasures, how do you upgrade the collectibles and things like that, I made a full guide to this process, so I'll put a link to that in the description below. You can check that out after this video. Anyway, so the first skill that she upgrades here goes from increasing attack and critical damage to then increasing attack and critical damage for 2 allies. So previously it was 1 ally with the highest attack, excluding the caster, although she would do it to herself if like no one else was alive still, but that's really not relevant. But now she's going to do it to the 2 allies with the highest attack, but the values for the attack buff and critical damage stay the same. They were already pretty good though, so that's not a big deal. So now increasing this for your 2 main DPS is definitely a big improvement, because in theory that should be like double the damage. Now, since this was kind of used as like a gimmick, I shouldn't even be calling it a gimmick, because it really was legit. But you know, for very specific situations, for doing massive damage from like one hit shots, doesn't have to be for Snow White, could be any other like really big one shot type of attack on any like burst 3 burst attack, but you know, Snow White was a great example of this. But if you're doing this for both of your big DPS units, that's going to be pretty dang good. Now let's go ahead and see what phase 2 does. So previously her wake up skill would activate at the beginning of full burst, and all allies would get a critical damage buff for 10 seconds. So of course it's still going to do that, but now activates when entering full burst, affects self. Crit rate goes up and attack damage goes up. Now, this is really good. I mean, crit rate and attack damage in particular is a very, very strong buff, but it affects self. So, you know, you're not really going to be doing a lot of damage with Miranda anyway, so this is not super great. Whereas the normal effect affects all allies, which was, you know, much more relevant to increase that critical damage. This could have in theory been good for crit fishing, you know, even better, but since again the crit rate is only affecting herself, it's not going to make that crit fishing any easier. But it does have an additional part: activates when entering full burst, affects 1 ally with the highest attack, except caster again, so we're going to be doing our highest attack DPS here. Crit rate goes up by 50%. So this part is going to be a big boost, and 50% is a massive increase. So if you're trying to do crit fishing for that one attack, this is what will actually help that, and 50% more is obviously going to give you 50% better chance to actually do that. So that is good if you're still trying to play that kind of game. So now let's take a look at her phase 3. So the new abilities on this is going to be activates after landing 30 normal attacks, affects self, attack goes up by 29% for 5 seconds. So again, big attack buff, but a big attack buff on Miranda is just not really going to be relevant. And then the other things stay the same, increasing all allies hit rate and all allies, let's see, after 30 normal attacks. Wait, is this the same? Hit rate goes up by 3% for 5 seconds. And after landing 30 normal attacks, affects all allies with the sub. Oh, okay, yeah. So the other one's just for submachine gun. I got confused for a second there. So that's really not, was never really relevant in the first place. Anyway, so, you know, basically the highlights here is that she's going to be an even better Snow White support or any of those one big burst attacks. If you're crit fishing, she's going to get an increase in attack damage and crit rate and attack for herself. Unfortunately, a lot of those buffs don't really help your other allies. So, I don't know. We'll come back to that. The next unit with a new favorite item we want to take a look at is Drake. Now, your boy has never been a big Drake user, but Drake has always been a pretty legit user, a pretty legit unit. I just like haven't actually used her all that much, just because at the beginning of the game I had a priority of like building other units. But like at launch, Drake was really one of the best units, to be honest. So let's see what her treasure does, because she still sees some fringe play, so maybe the treasure can help her even more. So again, gets all the standard stuff from the collectible item, but now we'll see what the skills are actually changing. So on the skill 1 here, or for phase 1, the additional effect is activates when entering full burst, affects all allies with a shotgun, attack goes up 37% for 10 seconds, and max ammo capacity up 29%. So it already activated at the beginning of full burst and affected all allies and gave a hit rate and attack buff. But this is going to give a way bigger attack buff and max ammo for anything in a shotgun. Now, on the shotgun team, this could be huge. This could actually be really relevant. You know, again, I'll come back to this after we talk about the rest of the things that increase on her favorite item, but just know that looks really good. Okay, so for phase 2, on the next skill, the new effect here is activates after 5 normal attacks, affects 1 enemy unit with the lowest remaining HP, deals 119% of final attack as damage. So she was already dealing final attack as damage to 3 enemies with the lowest HP. Of course, if you're fighting a single target boss, it doesn't really make any difference, but she's just going to do additional final attack, which is going to be over double the amount she was doing before. So this is a really big buff, although honestly, you know, 119% still isn't all that big, but it's final attack, so that's still pretty strong. And this isn't on a burst. Keep in mind, this is on a normal skill that just happens after every 10 attacks. So pretty big damage buff there. Now for phase 3. The new effect here is in her effect self. So previously did max ammo capacity up 42% for 10 seconds. Now it still does that, but also attack damage goes up by 18% for 10 seconds. So again, another big attack damage buff. So Drake was a good DPS. She's just getting to be a better DPS. I mean, honestly, Drake's favorite item here, I love it, by the way, the like villain suit, it looks amazing. Drake is such a funny character, but Drake is looking pretty nice. You know, she might get a real place on the shotgun team now. You know, better attack for all shotgun users. She does extra finisher damage, you know, better attack damage up. Drake's favorite item is looking very strong. You know, she was already seeing really rare fringe play, although she'd pretty much fallen off. But we just saw her in the last solo raid having a good role against Modernia because we needed more fire attackers. And the shotgun team is legit. And so, you know, whether she was like your third burst 3 or you like swapped out Maid Privity to use her or something like that, Drake could be really legit because she's going to get a lot of extra damage for all of your other shotgun users. And I wouldn't be surprised to see Drake popping up even more after this favorite item. Okay, so we got 2 more. We got Milk and Helm. Let's go ahead and take a look at Milk. Milk is a unit that basically never saw any play for almost any reason. I've always been kind of a fan of her character, but the reality is she just wasn't usable, and the major reason for that is that she was a burst 1 that had a 40-second cooldown. But her favorite item changes some of this in a massive way. So activates at the start of battle, affects self, cooldown of burst skill down 20 seconds continuously. So now she's just a straight up 20-second cooldown unit. So this instantaneously makes her way better than she used to be, because honestly her skills were pretty good, but the 40-second cooldown was just like made her dead on arrival, right? But now she's just a straight up 20-second cooldown unit, so that is extremely good. That's possibly the biggest buff we've seen for any treasure unit ever. Just like going to a lower cooldown on your burst is huge. Let's see what the next phase does. So previously increased critical damage for all allies as long as she had HP above 80%. Now she also says activates when attacking with full charge for 10 times, affects all allies, cooldown of burst skill down 1.87 seconds. That is crazy. We just got a new cooldown reduction unit. So, I mean, yeah, another huge buff to her. This could make Milk 100% usable, honestly. I mean, having another cooldown reduction unit is huge. Now, the thing is, this is really bad cooldown reduction. This is probably the worst cooldown reduction. So when we look at this realistically, this isn't cooling it down by 1 point. Is it 6.7 or 8.7? Sorry, the text is so tiny. I think it's actually 6.7. This isn't after every full shot, every full charge shot. This is after 10 full charge shots. So this is actually pretty bad, but still it is cooldown reduction. And so getting cooldown reduction on a burst 1, and now that she's just a 20-second cooldown herself, is pretty valuable. I could definitely see this helping a lot of people who are newer, still trying to fill out 5 teams that actually have cooldown reduction, because we don't have that many different units. Definitely more than we did at launch, but this is huge. I don't think this is going to be good enough to put her on, really developed accounts teams, but she does have good buffs, and having any cooldown reduction, if you don't have the better cooldown reduction units, is huge. So now let's take a look at phase 3. Only a small change here. Potency of HP restored goes up 44%. So basically makes her a better healer, because part of her burst was affects all allies, recovers 8% of attack damage to HP for 10 seconds. So she just gets a much better healing ability. Pretty good buffs here. Also, I love that it is a mug with a latte in it. Your boy is a coffee nerd, so I'm gonna like that. But although those cubes of sugar hovering above it are kind of blasphemy. But anyway, yeah, so she has a strong buff here. Which was the one that had the strong buff? Wait, I think it's on the normal part of this. Yeah. Okay, so affects 2 allies with the highest attack for 17 every 10 seconds. Kind of awkward timing with this, because any active buff, you have to be really careful when you use your burst if you're trying to capitalize on those buffs. We do this with Yulha often, so similar. At least she does it every 10 seconds, so it does make it easier rather than every 20 or 30 seconds or something like that. But yeah, so it can be awkward timing with her buff, but it is strong. She is becoming a 20-second cooldown, which is a massive boon. We have a new CDR unit, which is another huge thing. But 10 full charge shots to get that minor cooldown reduction is pretty bad, ballistically speaking, but still, it's pretty cool to get another CDR. And then gets better healing. So honestly, massive buffs to Milk, and I could see her making it onto a lot of newer to mid kind of accounts out there. Okay, so now we got one more, and that is our girl Helm. Now Helm has probably seen more play than any of these units, maybe with the exception of Drake, although I think Helm was probably still a little more relevant for a longer period of time. Let's go ahead and take a look at her skills and what she got from her favorite item. She's got a compass necklace, and let's go ahead and see what it actually does. Helm probably won't need a lot of help here to become relevant again, but let's go ahead and see. So the new effect for phase 1 says activates when attacking with full charge, affects all allies, recovers 0.42% of caster's final max HP, and fills burst gauge by 10%. This is massive. This is really, really good. So Helm was always used as kind of a niche healer, but she would only heal on her burst. And now she's going to heal all the time. Not only that, but she is going to compensate for not being able to quick charge by automatically filling the burst gauge when you're using those full charge attacks. So you're going to heal every time you use a full charge, and you're going to fill that burst gauge. This is amazing. I mean, this is really, really good, because oftentimes it was hard for her healing to actually keep up, because only being able to heal every other time when you burst was kind of rough. You could make it work, but not in all situations, particularly if you were a little bit on the weaker side. But now being able to heal by even just a small bit every time she does a full charge and then get a big healing buff every other burst attack is pretty good. This also could make her potentially just kind of like a third burst 3 where you don't necessarily even need to burst with her, and then she's going to contribute all those like crit rate and attack buffs that she would passively, which she was also really good at. So now let's go ahead and take a look at phase 2. The new part of this says activates when hitting a target with full charge, affects the target, deals 130% of final attack as additional damage. Okay, so again, we're being incentivized to use full charge. We're not going to quick charge, and we're going to deal final attack damage every time she does that. That's really good. I mean, that's not even, yeah, activates after hitting the target with full charge. That doesn't even need a certain number of them. Every single time, going to deal final attack damage. That is really, really good. And of course, she still has the damage to interrupt parts, the red circles, if you don't know what that means, and will increase attack damage during full burst. So another really solid ability here. And then phase 3. Now here's where she would deal final attack damage, which was really, really good. And she would do the big heal. But what else does she do? Affect self, charge damage multiplier up 115% for 10 seconds. So she's now going to deal just way more charge damage than she previously did. Now, charge damage buff isn't the greatest. Increasing charge damage is kind of in a bad place compared to like increasing, like attack damage, but still a damage buff. And considering that she was already pretty good and the other really big buffs that she got, this is looking like a really high quality favorite item. I mean, she heals outside of burst now. She boosts the burst gauge fill to compensate for not being able to quick charge. So I love that that just kind of like fixed the problem right there. And then deals final attack damage and charge damage up. I mean, that's really, really, really good, to be honest. So let's go ahead and talk about like which is actually the best. If I went for one, I've been praising Helm here a lot, but I think if I went for just one, I would probably go for Drake. She was already borderline usable and actually saw play in the last raid because we needed fire units, and she could be a really solid member of the shotgun team now. I wouldn't be surprised to see her just on the shotgun team kind of all the time. If you're running shotgun team, Drake might be the answer, because that's a really big attack buff to shotgun users. And particularly in fire raids, when that pops up again, Drake is going to get there. I think she probably wins the prize for the most legit use of your resources to get a favorite item. Miranda, there's just too much CDR competition. As much as she used to be relevant and she did get some pretty decent buffs, as a burst 1, there's too many units that have cooldown reduction now, and so using Miranda is just really not justifiable, to be honest. Most improved, though, I have to say, probably goes to Milk. She gets a massive buff with being a cooldown reduction unit and then herself becoming a 20-second cooldown, but honestly still isn't really good enough to compete with newer units. And then Helm would probably be my second choice. She's a much more effective healer now and could fill her that kind of like niche role again. So I wouldn't be surprised to see her popping up here and there as well. Also, I know everybody who missed this dress skin is crying right now. So yeah, let me know what you think, but those are going to be my recommendations. That's an overview of the favorite items. I think overall, these are more worth it than the previous batch. Not to say the previous batch wasn't relevant, particularly Exia ended up seeing a lot of high level play, but I'm pretty happy with this new batch. But yeah, let me know what you think. Now let's go ahead and end this with a one tap here for mana. Wish me luck, chat. Gotta get my cool light up tie scientist waifu. Change to gold? No. All right, that's a whiff. All right, I'll probably do 1 or 2 more polls on stream, so I'll catch you guys later. And yeah. Oh, if you haven't already, please subscribe. It'll help the channel out a lot. Blah, blah, blah. I'm sure you guys know a big percentage of users still aren't subscribed, and it would help me out a ton if you did. All right, I'll catch you guys in the next video or stream.